Right now, before you finish reading this sentence, your brain already decided how you'd react to it. You just haven't noticed yet. That's not a metaphor. That's a measurable, repeatable fact about how your mind works. And once you understand it, you'll never look at your own decisions the same way again. Think about the last choice you made today. Maybe it was what to eat, what to wear, or which video to click. It felt like you chose it, right? You weighed your options and you picked. That feeling, that sense of I am the one deciding, is one of the most convincing illusions the human brain produces. Let's start with the basics. Free will means being able to choose your actions freely, without being forced by anything outside your control. Sounds simple, but the deeper scientists dig into the brain, the shakier that idea gets. In the 1980s, a neuroscientist named Benjamin Libet ran an experiment that shook the entire field. He hooked people up to a brain scanner and asked them to do something incredibly simple: move their finger whenever they felt like it. Nothing fancy. Just decide, then move. But here's the strange part. Libet also asked them to watch a clock and remember the exact moment they felt the urge to move. And when he compared the timing, the brain activity preparing the movement showed up before the person consciously felt like deciding. Not after, before. In other words, your brain starts the decision. And only afterward does you become aware that you decided anything. It's like watching a movie and thinking you wrote the script, when really, you were just told the plot a few seconds late. Now, scientists still debate exactly what this proves, but it opened a door that couldn't be closed again. What if conscious choice isn't the starting point of our actions, but more like a headline announcing something that already happened backstage? At first, this sounds impossible to accept. Surely you decide what you do, but look closer at your daily life and you'll start noticing how much of it runs on autopilot. Think about brushing your teeth, tying your shoes, or driving a familiar route home. You don't consciously plan each movement. Your brain built a habit loop and now it fires automatically without asking permission. Around 40% of what you do every single day isn't a decision at all. It's a routine your brain runs on autopilot to save energy, and it's not just your habits. Your brain is also full of shortcuts called cognitive biases, quick mental rules that feel like logic but are really just fast guesses. Ever bought something because everyone else was buying it? That's social proof bias. Your brain assuming a crowd must know something you don't. Ever notice that prices ending in 99 feel way cheaper than round numbers? That's not an accident. That's decades of psychological research turned into a science your brain never signed up for. What most people never realize is that entire industries are built around predicting and nudging your so-called free choices. Advertisers don't guess what you want. They study attention, color psychology, scarcity, urgency. Only 3 left in stock. And emotional triggers designed to make a decision feel like it was yours, when it was carefully engineered, and it doesn't stop with ads. Humans are wired for social conformity. In a famous experiment by Solomon Asch, people were shown a simple line and asked which of 3 other lines matched it in length. Easy, right? Except when actors in the room deliberately gave the wrong answer first, about a third of real participants agreed with the wrong answer too, just to avoid standing out. Not because they were stupid. Because your brain treats social rejection like a survival threat. Things get even weirder when you bring dopamine into the picture. Dopamine isn't just the pleasure chemical people think it is, it's actually the wanting chemical. It fires before the reward, not after, pulling you toward whatever your brain predicts will feel good. That's why you check your phone without deciding to. Your brain already learned that novelty might be waiting there, and it pulls the trigger before you even show up to the conversation. So here's the question that should be bothering you by now. If your habits are automatic, your biases are built in, your social behavior is wired for conformity, and your reward system is quietly pulling strings behind the curtain, where exactly is the free part of free will supposed to live? Here's where everything changes, though, because not everyone agrees this means free will is dead. Some scientists and philosophers argue that even if your brain starts the process, you are still the brain. There's no separate ghost pulling levers. You are the biological machine doing the deciding, so the decision is still yours, just not free in some magical, uncaused way. Others argue that real freedom isn't about the first millisecond of a choice. It's about being able to pause, reflect, and override an impulse. That split-second delay Libet discovered? Some researchers believe that's actually where free will lives, not in starting the action, but in vetoing it. You may not choose the initial urge to eat the donut, but you can still choose not to eat it, and that distinction might be the most useful idea in this entire video. Because even if a huge percentage of your daily behavior really is automatic, biased and socially engineered, understanding that gives you something incredibly powerful: the ability to catch yourself in the act. Once you know habits run on autopilot, you can redesign your environment instead of relying on willpower. Want to stop mindlessly scrolling? Don't fight the urge, remove the easy trigger. Charge your phone in another room. Once you know advertising manipulates urgency and scarcity, you can pause before buying something, because it's almost sold out, and ask whether you actually need it or whether a marketing team just successfully pulled your strings. Once you know social, conformity can override your own judgment. You can notice the moment you're agreeing with a group just to avoid discomfort, and ask yourself what you'd choose if no one else were watching. And once you understand dopamine is pulling you toward a reward before you consciously decide anything, you can build in that tiny pause, the one that turns an automatic reaction into an actual choice. That pause might be the closest thing humans get to freedom, not the absence of influence, because there is no version of you untouched by biology, upbringing, culture, and chemistry, but the ability to notice the influence and choose your response anyway. So maybe free will isn't some magical power to act outside of cause and effect. Maybe it's smaller, quieter, and far more human than that. The brief moment between impulse and action where awareness sneaks in and asks, "Wait, is this actually what I want?" Which brings us back to you sitting here right now. The decision to keep watching this channel, to click on this video in the first place, how much of that was really your choice? And how much of it had already been decided by your brain before you ever felt like deciding?